Well, I have Chris Thomas with us, Minister for the DOI, and he's been doing his look back on the year. But we obviously have. In fact, I haven't seen you for a long time. I know you've been really tricky. I mean, going back to the flood thing, I was asking for feedback on that one. We had this big sort of idea that we could be in for a massive big issue again down Tromode. Your response, I know you have had time to think about this now, and I know Laxey's another job that's done all right, but what about this Tromode business?
Okay, well, I could have come in and told you what I'm going to tell you now right after the interview, and apologies that it's taken me so long to get up here. Mr. Kane is great. He writes to Tynwald members regularly. He has a view on what should happen in his fields, in his agricultural land around the river. I think probably the department has a different view, and certainly we don't have all the funds and the budgets.
Was he fair what he said, though?
So in his view, the river through his farmland should be canalised and should be dredged and made deeper and so on. Modern thinking is that perhaps in somewhere which is only surrounded by farmland, which drains quite quickly, you're better off re-meandering the rivers and actually working with nature, because ultimately, as was shown in Laxey, we've got to actually approach flood events. We've got to have two concerns. The first one is to deal with them completely, holistically, properly. And that means thinking about where the water's coming from up in the mountains and doing something about that. It's about thinking that the water goes where it's not going to damage people and property. It's to do with making practical adjustments inside the budgets that we can afford. So in terms of Laxey, they've done some great job, and I think the people of Laxey appreciate it in terms of thinking through what went wrong and fixing them. But they've also thought about up the floodplain and what to do with trees. In terms of Mr. Kane's property and his land, we have to remember that at the end of the day it's agricultural land, and it's not so much of a problem if it floods there. I
don't want to turn the whole interview into that one subject today. We can go back there and do that another day, but what really seemed to come across was red tape. He can't go into the thing unless he gives assurances that nothing will go downstream and block somebody else. It just didn't sit well when I did the interview with him, and I know that's his side. But do you get that point that we do have an issue that maybe get on with it and just do it and sort it out, but no, you can't because you've got to sign a form and you might be liable for somebody else's issues. What do you think?
So basically what we're doing about Tromode, what we're doing about the Douglas flooding issue, because ultimately Mr. Kane's fields are Mr. Kane's fields, and that's what he worries about. But what the public of the Isle of Man's got to worry about is are parts of Douglas going to be flooded from the River Glass and the River Doo and so on. So what have we done? First of all, there was a substantial risk that Poole Rose Bridge would collapse in the previous incident, so Poole Rose Bridge has been done. In terms of Tromode Estate, which also we had huge flooding issues, next soon we will be beginning raising banks and doing stuff to protect Tromode Estate.
But this is years after it happened originally, right? I know it's before your time, but we call it a ticking time bomb for a reason, because you just might get the wrong day with the rain coming down in just that point. What is going to happen if people downstream are going to flood again?
Well, that's happening very soon. The Tromode works is happening very soon, and then further down, another big risk point is the NSC and the sports ground, and that's happening very soon. And the third one is around Tromode Road. The one part of the Tromode Road scheme that might have work on very soon is the road along there, because that is risk to properties. And then further down, I will be coming to the Manx public in the new year with quite substantial spending plans that needs to happen at some point to do with how we're going to deal with the quay flooding, how we're going to deal with the promenade flooding, how we're going to do.
Are you comfortable with the rate of things going, and bearing in mind that we're now into winter? Are you going to lose any sleep over things as they are or not?
Every time it rains I lose sleep, but I live by the River Douglas, so I have something. But let me get to another major point. What I actually said was we need to think about this holistically, and one part of living with it holistically is for the public to understand that we have to make choices between what we do, and ultimately we need to protect all of the houses and restaurants in Douglas more than we do an agriculture field. And also we've got to start building houses in the right place and businesses in the right place, and when we build them, if there's any flood risk, we've got to start preparing them for being flooded. In other words, don't have carpets downstairs, have your electric socket slightly further up, and all of those sorts of things. And we'll be talking to the public about that hugely from January onward. It's my next target next year is to really go into flood risk management.
I've only got you for so long, so so many things. Should we talk about airports and
that would be fine.
Goings on? Where are we up to with what happened with FlyBe? Do you have any more details why they pulled out 2
I
days
was hugely
before?
disappointed, and I can only
It's
see.
bizarre.
I can only see what the public sees, more or less, which is we were planning the party that probably happened in Newcastle on the tarmac on the Monday, and I only knew as soon as the airport director knew, and the airport director knew very shortly before all the public was told.
So it's totally FlyBe, and nothing you didn't pull out of any sweeteners, or they can't blame you on anything to do with it?
I can't comment on whether there even were any sweeteners. We'll leave it like that. But that's one of the issues. What I'm trying to do and work with the airport director on, and the rest of council ministers and senior officers, is to clean up the way that we relate with airline services. Mm-hmm. And we've got a target date. It's all
shrouded in a little bit of secrecy. I mean, you can't even tell us what the deal is with Logan on Heathrow. You refused an FOI. I mean, you're meant to be for transparency and freedom of everything.
I am.
You're in charge of this thing. Surely you blocked it, did you, at some point? You must have said.
No,
Did it get to you?
I never even see FOI responses. I don't even
Okay.
get copies of them. I only actually have to look on the public website to see it. Because hang on, it's a very important point.
Yeah.
So we need to be in a position where we actually choose which routes have a public subsidy and how they go it, and then do that in a transparent way. We're not at that situation at the moment.
Why?
So the only reason, because we've had all these ad hoc deals done by previous airport directors and previous airport deputy directors and DFE sometimes and DOI sometimes, and it's all pretty murky in one sense, not murky in a wrongdoing sense, but murky in the fact that we've got lots of.
If it's not transparent, it's murky. Sorry.
Yeah, in that sense, I'm happy to agree with it, but some people might take murky as meaning worse than that, and I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is we're cleaning up where we are so that we can be in a proper position from some point next year, and the only reason we couldn't disclose that money at this stage, because obviously it will come out when the budget is there and so on, is because we're in the process of policy formulation and we're in the process of commercial negotiations.
I put it to you, potentially, the reason the FlyBe didn't go ahead was they probably wanted a bit of this money themselves, and you were going, no, behind the scenes, sorry, it's already allocated, although that agreement was due to come to an end. Mm-hmm. And they went, well, no money coming in, we'll go and, I think Newcastle got it instead, the same plane that they couldn't find. Mm-hmm. They're now doing Heathrow and
I couldn't possibly
Belfast. You couldn't possibly come.
But you haven't got everything right in that. But these are the sorts of things.
But I'm only guessing because you're not telling us.
Yeah, and that's where we are. So quite soon, in a few months in the future, we'll be in a better position, and that's what we're doing. We're cleaning up the situation with airlines and route providers, and we're getting to a better position where we work out what the island needs, what the national interest is, and then putting in place proper arrangements. So early next year, we'll have 3 documents that will be incredibly important for helping you have all this information. One of those is the first of the annual airport reports. So we've never had an airport report, but we will be having one to feed back on incidents like the closure when we had that alert in the security, to feed back on all of these sorts of things. The second one was we'll have an airport master plan, a 10-year probably investment plan for what we need to do, the small amount of things we need to do now around the departures lounge, around security, around air traffic control runways, but then bigger plans in the future. And the third one will be a sort of project plan for a new type of governance for the airport, and also for the way that we do relationships with it.
But there was an open skies, closed skies report that went to Comin. It was all set for release. We got our brief that it was coming out that week. Has it come out still? Last I checked, it hadn't.
It hasn't come out. No.
I think we're blaming you for this. You pulled it, haven't you? You've stopped it.
No, it's not. I haven't stopped it.
Hang on. It was already gone to Comin. It was coming out, and it doesn't come out. You must be the sole person to pull it. Why?
It's not even. I've got no.
Can
powers.
you tell us who did pull it then?
I've got no powers in that. So I think I can't remember. Yeah, well, it must be. So basically, in the period when there was a big transition at the airport, the Department for Enterprise took the lead role in front of media in terms of airport strategy. So you will remember back in March, April time when the Logan Air Heathrow city arrangements were made. It was Minister Allinson, Dr. Allinson, who was the only minister mentioned in the press releases and things like that. DOI was at one of its low points now. Now I think with a new airport director, with a minister who's really taking airports seriously, we're beginning to put things back in their proper place.
Just tell us now. Come on, openness and transparency. Why has that report been put into some sort of long grass issue here? Why has it not come out? It was approved by Comin, I understand. So
well, it's not even a question of approving it or not approving it, because at the end of the day, it's just a recommendation.
Why has it not come out? I'm going to ask you until you get me an answer. Why has it not come out?
Because I think there is a view that we should basically make sure that everything about what we're going to do in the light of the sorts of things in that report and in lots of other places come out together.
Who pulled it? Who pulled it?
Well, so the decision to publish it or not to publish it is entirely in the Department for Enterprise's hands, because they're the ones who commissioned it.
We have an answer. You are blaming it on... well, no, you're putting responsibility on Department for Enterprise.
Yeah, it's not, It's their report. They can publish it whenever they want to.
What the heck can it say in there?
It won't actually
radical.
It doesn't. I don't think that's the point. I think it'll be a damp squib when you see it. I think some people might even argue it's just a sort of a discussion in general terms about.
But it's open skies and closed skies, right? I mean, wasn't a lot of debate about this. We're open at the minute, but we want to have semi-open.
And there still is.
With subsidies, it's not completely...
There still is. So, we have levers. We have the landing charges. We have other ways of subsidising it. We have underwriting and so on. We have choices to make about how many airlines we have on each route. So they're the live issues. They're the ones that are going on. I haven't in any way today criticised Department for Enterprise. The decision has been taken.
You just tell me it's their problem now, so that's good. But we kind of had this answer weeks ago. We've been asking, as the journalists have their little chit-chat, where is this report? And no one seems to have an answer.